Hello, I'm Chris Mason. He is Matt Vautour, and we are doing for the end of the year, MassLive. We're going to do quarter century teams for each of the big four sports in Boston, and we're also going to do 25 for the next 25. That's the 25 people who we think are going to be the most impactful on the world of Boston sports in the next 25 years. There are a lot of close calls. There are a lot of hot debates. One we're having right now, we're still having it leading up to the publication, is who's going to be number two. We're not going to reveal number one right now, but between number two, we've got Drake May and Brad Stevens. Matt, he's falling onto the Brad Stevens side of the aisle. State your case, sir.
Well, let's start by saying Drake is unquestionably the most impactful athlete, and he's playing the most. He's a terrific player at the most impactful position in sports, and in the sport that people care the most about. Barring an injury, he certainly qualifies, and putting him in the top three is huge. However, I think I think in this situation that Brad Stevens impacts so many things for the Celtics and potentially for a longer period of time. Now, I can look like an absolute idiot on this, that he could retire in 2 years and I'll look like a fool. But presuming that he's going to stay in this job for a while, he's not that old, and his competitive nature seems to be that this is something that he wants. Brad Stevens is navigating a sport that has the most competitive and restrictive salary cap of any other sport, and he's done a really good job of it. You look at the Celtics so far this year, and they could still obviously fall off the table, but in a year that they're missing their best player and they're basically in salary cap jail, they've found a way to be competitive and be a playoff team because he found Ugo Gonzalez, he found Baylor Shireman. So many of the guys that are currently on the Celtics are guys that the Celtics drafted higher than they were slotted, and yet if you redrafted today, they'd go higher than the Celtics took him because Brad Stevens has a great feel for that. Peyton Pritchard, Jordan Walsh, those are guys. Nehemias Queta, who that's not a guy they drafted, and Sam Hauser, same thing. He's recognized guys that the Celtics can make use of. He's made smart decisions at coaching. Ime Udoka, for all of his personal issues, was a terrific hire. Joe Mazzulla, who I called for them to fire him after his first year, has turned out to be a really good fit both for this franchise and in the city. And so I think when you look at what the Celtics have ahead of them, they have a potential championship window that's going to be open. You've got Jason Tatum when he comes back, and Jaylen Brown. Can you make the next version of the Porzingis trade? Can you make the next version of the Drew Holiday trade to set themselves up? Can you do um another Derek White kind of trade, given that nobody thought he was going to be the standout player that he was when they got him, and he's done a terrific job of that. And so I think Brad Stevens, given how many things he controls, and with a new owner there, and trying to navigate a difficult situation, I think his impact as an executive, somebody who can hold that position longer, and somebody who can control the fates of a lot of people, I think that for me, he's the guy.
But you're comparing him to the quarterback of the New England Patriots. It's the most important position in North American sports, the biggest team in town. Drake May is 23 years old. He's already played his way into the MVP conversation. He could have a runway where he's playing quarterback here for the next 15 years, where I'd imagine that Drake outlasts Brad in their respective jobs, given I don't know that Brad wants to be in a front office exec role forever. I could see him jumping back into coaching somewhere where, like, I think his kids are getting older. I think they're going to move out at a certain point. I think he's going to get a little restless, whereas Drake May is the guy here. And I think he's proven that already. I mean, if we were to do this list retroactively, who would be number one for the last 25 years?
So here's the problem. You can't make Tom Brady the comparison point. You can't. He's the best to ever do it. The best to ever do it. Because if you were to say in the last, the 100 years, Red Auerbach was as influential to Boston sports as anyone, both but before that. So if
Yeah,
you're
before
gonna
the salary cap. Like,
understandable, but it was a absolutely different situation, different way of roster building, weird drafting, and so forth. He shaped the NBA in a lot of ways. So you can't if you can't use Brady because he is one in a million. And so I think Drake May is gonna be terrific, but I don't think anybody's gonna be Tom Brady again. The same way I thought it was absurd when people were trying to make Patrick Mahomes Tom Brady. The
So the answer to your question, though, is for the last 25 years, the most impactful has been the quarterback of the New England Patriots.
I would yes for in that 20 in that window. Although you could make a pretty good argument for Theo Epstein in there for the way that that changed the entire thing.
You're not arguing Theo over Brady. Come on.
I'm not. So I'm. It's not the point. You can't. So you cannot take Tom Brady. That's like people that say you can have a 6'5" power forward in the NBA because Charles Barkley did it. If you're picking it on one guy, and how many cities would the quarterback fit that description? And how many? Not that many.
I think there'd be a lot if you actually looked around. Patrick Mahomes in Kansas City, Josh Allen in Buffalo, Joe
We're
Burrow in
talking
Cincinnati. Like,
in those cases you're talking about cities that don't have four teams. You've just listed Buffalo. What is he? He's better than everybody with the Sabres,
you think so?
without question.
Is he more
Everybody with
impactful than
the
Kevin Adams? I mean, he
yes,
certainly had an
yes,
impact.
yes. Congratulations. It's better than anybody there. Kansas City has two teams. You're like you look at big sports towns. Is there a quarterback in New York? Is there? I mean, it's not Eli Manning in the
They
last
don't
25
have good
years.
quarterbacks. Drake's in the MVP conversation. There hasn't been a quarterback at the level that Drake May is at in that
It's
market in how long?
for a long-term thing, an owner, an exec, and so forth that can impact it more. You're right. If you have the best player in the history of the sport, you can do that. If you have it, and if you have if Drake May is
Okay,
in the
even if
top,
we're not talking about the history of the sport right now, though, Drake is second in MVP odds right now. So if you say based on those, he's the second pl best player in the sport right now.
right for
He's
one
23
year,
years old
for
and
one
he's
year, a
already
lot of
this
things.
good.
And here's the thing: in the next 5 years, is Patrick Mahomes still in the top run of it? It falls off fast. It falls off fast. This is 25 years.
Matt, who plays the game? Did the execs play the game or the players play the game?
And how do the players get there?
A lot of different avenues. Depends
It's
on
it,
what you're
it's
talking about.
yes, and in,
But
in the
also,
NBA, in the NBA, in a franchise that's awfully important in the city of Boston, and it's the hardest way to do it successfully is in the NBA, and Stevens is terrific at it.
yeah, and he's done a nice job. But even the like impact that you're saying with Stevens right now, the two best players on the roster aren't Stevens guys. He's done a great job with ancillary pieces and they've elevated a bit, but like he inherited Jason Tatum, he inherited Jaylen Brown.
Oh, for sure, for sure. But if you look, what I'm saying, if you look at the things that you know are going to face them going forward, with a new owner, with a challenging cap situation, it's incredibly important for who's pushing those buttons, and he's shown that he can do it, and in this situation will be relied on to do it.
But at the end of the day, the quarterback is paramount to the success that's going to happen moving forward. Like,
There's no argument. There's no argument on that.
yep,
But
there's no argument. There we go. Thank you. Checkmate.
good luck with that.
Hey man, I'm going to be editing this video, so we can just cut it out just like that.
I'm going to be editing the story.
Touche. Do you have a closing statement that you would like to make in your campaign for Brad?
My campaign for Brad, I do think I do think it will be fun when we're both a little grayer to look back on this. And I would say if you were setting odds on this, there's a better chance that neither of us are right than one of us are specifically right 25 years from now. But I do think that both of them will be particularly impactful. But if the Celtics are going to remain a championship caliber franchise, Brad Stevens has got to do a hell of a job.
Yeah, I feel pretty good that we're going to look back and they'll both be in the top 10 here, where there's a few around that are a little more lottery tickety, and it's like, I don't know. But ultimately, man, I think the quarterback just means so much to the team, to the region. I think Drake, beyond his play on the field, is a leader off the field. I think he's growing into that role. I think they know what they have with him, and so he's going to be here for quite some time. I think he's the guy.